This is a Pele Media podcast.
What's going on, everybody? Thank you so much for tuning in to Goonies Minute. This is the fan podcast where we explore the 1985 classic film Goonies minute by minute. I am Brady.
And this is Chris.
And we are joined again today by Miss Crystal Beth. Crystal, how you doing?
Oh, I'm doing very well. I recently dyed my hair purple and blue underneath, and it's my favorite thing, and I can't stop looking at it right now.
No kidding. Did you really?
I did.
Oh, that's awesome.
And we get to look at the pictures online?
I actually didn't post any pictures online.
Oh, no,
but
okay.
I will tell you guys what. I will text Brady some of them.
You text Brady,
Yeah.
and we'll take a look at it.
Yeah, we'll do that. And before that, we'll get into the minute. Well, hold on. Chris, how are you doing today?
Boy, oh boy, I was having a rough day, and then I sat down in this chair, and I was able to hear both of you guys' voices, and my day just perked up.
And
Was
then-
that before or after you broke the chair?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that was yesterday when we were recording.
Yesterday.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, we don't do these things in bulk. Industry secret.
What are you talking about?
All right, well.
You know, the last minute ended where Mrs. Walsh, first notices the potato chips, but we don't see that it's potato chips yet. And they all freak out. They're about to freak out because they think that she noticed the statue. And then she says something about the potato chips, and it's so funny, the relief on Chunk's face and mouth, too.
Yes.
And it's so hilarious.
Yeah. My note says that, she notices the chips, and then we cut to the chips on the table. I'm more worried about this massive gash that's going right up through the middle of this nice, hardwood coffee table. I doubt anyone else looks at that.
That's interesting. I haven't.
Really? It must be the statue. Or maybe it was just this prop table just happened to have a big scratch. But, I mean, it is this massive scratch.
Really?
Right up the middle of the table.
I'm disappointed that I hadn't seen that.
It looks like she has two boys.
Yeah, exactly. So fitting. But, so another thing that I noticed is that Mrs. Walsh steps through the door that's broken. There's no screen. There's nothing there to keep her from just walking through the door. And Rosalita actually takes the time to open the door.
Yeah,
with nothing stopping her. And she just...
and she is thrilled to leave.
Yeah,
Rosalita
she really is.
And then what did she say? What Spanish say? I can't even remember.
Right.
What did Mal tell Rosalita when she left? Adios.
No. Oh, yeah,
Adios,
no,
señorita.
yeah.
Adios, señorita. Yeah.
What a jackass.
And she is just ready.
Yeah, she's ready to get the hell out.
Get out of
Right.
there. And I think again, it's like Miss Walsh for the second or third time reiterates that she'll be back in an hour. I don't know if that means anything, but it's like, okay, I think in the whole scheme of what's about to go on, they want you to know, okay, this is what's, she's going to be back in an hour, and this is what's about to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also, with that part, I think that it tells a lot because the screen door comes in again in a few minutes after this, but it says a lot about the character, how they leave through a door that's broken. I would 100% still open the door even if the screen was broken.
Me too.
Yeah, me too. Absolutely.
That's interesting. That's really good. Yeah, I would too.
And you notice, and I mean, if you guys want to talk about it, you can, but no pressure. But in the minutes where the guys come back inside again after handing the papers off to those bad guys, you see who chooses not to walk through the door or not to open the door, and it speaks volume about who they are as character. It's very interesting.
I've actually never seen that, so I'm gonna have to.
I think that's
keep an eye
what's
out
so
for that.
cool when you take different people that watch it this closely, how one person sees something, the other person didn't see that. Isn't that cool? I think that's what's great about getting together and doing this.
What's so great about doing it in the case of a film like The Goonies is, again, I know Steven Spielberg did not direct this movie, but his stamp is all over it. So many times in his movies, you've got so many different things, different conversations going on in the same frame. And, for example, in the Brody household in the beginning of Jaws, you get Chief Brody in the foreground on the phone getting the notification that the arm has washed up, and then the wife and son are on the other side, and you can follow both of these conversations. In Jurassic Park, whenever they're outside of the raptor pen, you get Muldoon and Grant discussing raptors, and then on the other side, Hammond is, talking to Ellie about what they're going to eat for lunch or something.
Because that's real life.
Yeah, it's real life. Well, in most cases, you get like at least two little things to pay attention to in that shot. The Goonies has like 7. I mean, you get all these little kids running around doing all kinds of. There's just so many details and so many different things you can pick up on every time you watch it, and that's the case with Goonies. Every time.
What Beth said, it's real life, and one of the things it drives my dad crazy, and even some of the shows that we really like a Law and Order, an NYPD Blue, not NYPD. What's that damn show?
What's NCIS or something?
Yeah,
Law and Order.
no, it's NYPD Blue.
Yeah.
Is it?
Sure.
What's the one? No, Blue Bloods. But Blue Bloods, CSI, any of these.
Yeah.
It's like one person says something, then it's the next person,
Yeah.
then it's the next person, then it's the next person. And I don't know if it's because, hey, this is something that's every week, and it's not quite as thought out as a movie like this by an amazing director or writer. But, yeah, it is definitely more real life. And the fact that they've got so much going on, like we talked about in the previous minute, how we go from upstairs with the maid and Mouth and Mrs. Walsh back downstairs, back upstairs, back downstairs, and then we have multiple people talking and different things going on at the same time. There's a lot more thought out stuff.
Yeah, and very much the way a bunch of children would be doing. It just
a lot of ADD.
Yeah, a lot of ADD. And here you have like 5 or 6, or no, I guess like 4, maybe 10 to 12-year-olds who are just mastering that philosophy, that acting philosophy, perfectly. And the director is saying, like, all right, guys, just talk over each other and keep it real, keep it realistic, and they're doing it, and they're doing it flawlessly. So that's something I always notice in this movie, and I attribute to Richard Donner and his ability to coach these kids, and Spielberg too, for that matter. So, Chris, you were saying that Donner had a couple of little techniques he would use to work with the kids, and one of them was saying big eyes.
Yeah, he would say big eyes whenever something was going to happen. A lot of times they would have the cameras rolling, kind of like we will have the recorders going, and that it's not just completely cut, and not here we go. They would just say big eyes, and they would,
know to react.
Know to react a certain way, and they got a lot more realistic reactions by doing that. Mm-hmm. And that is a lot of times that there's big eyes in this movie.
All right, so it's in minute 13 that I think the Goonies, the movie, really starts.
Yeah,
we've had all our setup, and now we're getting into the attic.
I want to say that transition, as soon as Rosalita and Mrs. Walsh leave, there is a transition, and Mouth is the one that starts that transition that says he mentions the stuff in the attic.
And then I really think that's when the story begins. There is something about an attic that has just so much allure to it.
Well, I mean, obviously they have the sexual torture devices in there.
Right? But there's something about an attic that it's like you're maybe it's the fact that they're not completely finished and you're in this sort of bare bones environment that's full of things you just, like antiques and memories and things that have so much story and mystery to them, and you're storing them in this place where they're almost sort of forgotten.
Yeah, it's like going back in time when you open stuff up.
Yeah, and you're going back in time in this place that's just like silent and still and eerie. And I actually have a good friend who is from Peru, and she says they don't really have attics there. And and she was over the other night, and she saw that I have an attic door, and she was like, just had to go in. She had to see what was up there. And I was like, all right, sure, whatever. And I open it, and there's that loud just clang of when an attic door opens, and there's just
I got to know what was in there.
Right. And
sexual torture device.
Right. Not quite the Walsh attic.
That's all we have.
Yeah. But there was just this.
We don't keep those in the attic. We keep those downstairs.
In the McMahon household. But no, it's just like looking into this sort of black void with this. You okay over there? You need some time. And she was just mesmerized, just looking up into this like black void, and you pull the ladder down, and she climbed up in, and she was like really scared, and there was some kind of mysterious quality to this thing called the attic that I don't know, man. It's hard to put into words, but I'm hoping the two of you know what I'm talking about.
Honest to goodness, a big part of my life has been thinking about when I get old enough to get a house, that I want a house that has an attic that hasn't been cleaned out. So like you get the attic in an estate. Whoa.
Did you fall off the chair too?
Nope, but I got so excited I slapped my mic off the table. I love attics. but I'm going to keep my hands in my lap now. But I want to move somewhere where there's an attic because I've always lived in newer houses or houses that didn't have an attic, and I wanted to go and like open up a chest that had dust all over the top and blow the dust off and open up and find like some really cool old clothes or some old letters or like a body, something like that.
We the house that I grew up in, we had just big attic, and there was a lot of stuff left from the previous owners. But I mean, my dad had all these fake Christmas trees that we just accumulated over the years, and they were all stored in one spot, one corner of the attic, and it was like 8 of them. So there was a little forest like in the corner of the attic. It was pretty cool.
But I know what you mean. It's so cool to go into a place you'd never been before and to see who might have left something behind.
Yeah, and again, like you were saying, Crystal, there's it's like there's a timeless quality. Whenever you go into an attic, it's almost like you're out of time because all you're surrounded by is wood and just all these memories, all these things that people have just shoved away and stored away, and I don't know. It's interesting. It's really interesting stepping. I don't know.
I love memories, and I love seeing where people come from. And I think attics can really show that, because then you get to see all the weird things that families collect, and you're like, wow, your family's crazy.
Yeah. Well, the Walshes must have been pretty crazy because their dad has all kinds of pirate memorabilia and paraphernalia up there.
And before we get into the attic, just before I forget, so it looks like so when Mouth mentions going in the attic, he wants to know what's going to happen to it. And so this the first time we see that, okay, they are moving, and the new assistant curator of the museum would get it. But I was wondering, it's like, isn't that weird that, okay, the dad is, the curator of this museum. Wouldn't you think that those kids would know that some of that stuff was out there, or why would he even be keeping it in that attic? Isn't that weird? I mean, that's to me, that's so strange.
That it was just something
they first of all, if they had that cool stuff in there, as much of those kids are into adventure, wouldn't you think they've already been up there and look at it?
Maybe not. Like for a long time, we weren't allowed to go in the attic.
Nah, that's true.
Don't go in the attic. You'll fall through the sheetrock or whatever.
Yeah. I was also afraid of my parents.
Yeah, which adds to that mysterious otherworld quality, is that it's taboo. You can't go in there. So
yeah, I had no desire to get in trouble when I was younger. My mom had a sweetest lady in the world, terrifying angry face. And I did not want to risk that ever.
Yeah, dude, no, that's nothing to play around with. It's a stern mother when you've done something wrong.
Well, hey, did either of you notice so it starts to spiral out of control, the idea of going into that attic, and all of them are like saying it could be rich stuff, could be stuff we could keep, and then Chunk is saying food.
I never noticed that.
It's like it escalates because
Yeah.
Mouth is starting to escalate it, and the idea of going in the attic to look and see what might be up there. And listen to that. Chunk says food twice. Like,
did I say yet that I love Chunk? I don't think I have. He's the best.
He's the best. And having watched this, again, over and over and over again now, I really see what a brilliant performance Jeff Cohen gives as Chunk, and what a brilliant just character that is. It's Crystal, what do you think about Goonies 2? The idea of a Goonies 2. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, it's one of those things where this movie is good for its time. This movie wouldn't come out now. It would be all CG and half cartoon, and it wouldn't be what it is. And if they remade it, I think it would take away the magic from this movie.
Right. And they already have the basis of a story of the reason that they do what they do. So there's no reason.
There's an ending. There's a beginning and a middle and an end, movies should have, and they don't anymore.
I know. Ugh, I hate it.
Hey, another thing I wanted to mention, we have, fun, lovable Chunk, excited Mouth, and then Mikey is so worried about his dad. In the previous minute or two, Mikey was like, dad'll fix it.
Yeah.
And he's so worried about people getting into his dad's stuff. He's so protective of his dad. It's interesting, that relationship.
And it's a really, Mikey's such a great character. With so much heart, because he is constantly defending his dad. You shut up about that. My dad's going to fix it. Here he is trying to protect all his dad's belongings. And then, he's got this appreciation for his older brother when he says, thanks, Bran, thanks for understanding. And he's, concerned about the community that's about to be demolished too. So he's a sweet kid. It's easy to want to follow Mikey's journey in this because he's just a pleasant person to watch.
Yeah, he's sweet.
Yeah, very, very, very.
It has bad asthma.
Yeah.
He has bad asthma.
I think it's the last minute, or maybe the minute before that, Mrs. Walsh comes in. He just throws his inhaler across the room. I don't know. Did y'all catch that? No?
Yes.
Yeah, you did. Okay.
Yeah, we caught that.
Yeah. Thank you, Chris. Thank you for affirming my observation.
So, it kind of ends when Brant said, I didn't know Dad had all this stuff up there. That's how the minute ends.
Yeah.
And the idea of getting him up there, because I would have thought that he wouldn't.
And he takes off, man. He jumps up and.
Yeah, I wouldn't have thought that was kind of weird. I wouldn't have thought Brant would even allow them up there.
Yeah.
Which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, that is. That he's a part of this as well. Crystal, do you have anything else for this?
No, I think that's it for me.
All right, Chris, you good?
I don't have anything else.
All right, well, I think that about wraps it up for this minute. But before we take off, Crystal, can you tell all of our listeners where they can find you? What all you got going on?
Sure, you can listen to my Minute podcast about The Fifth Element at www.thefiftheleminute.com. You can listen to my video game podcast on iTunes called Unlimited Lives Radio, or you can follow me on Twitter at @TheCrystalBeth. That's it. That's where I live.
That's where you live. Well, Fifth Element is amazing. It dropped on the 26th, and really, really enjoying it. That's such a fun movie and just something that's so prime for the Movies by Minute format. But I tell you what, Chris, thank you for...
What's so funny?
Whatever you find funny about me and my...
I'm not looking at you.
Okay.
So that's all we have for today. Does anybody else have anything else?
No, that's it for me.
Crystal?
Yep, good for me.
All right. Goonies?
Try to start that. We're here to remind you. No, you're taking this now, Jim.
Yeah.
We're here to remind you. You hear me do it every day. You got.
And we're here to remind you, Goonies, I want you to say it.
All right.
Hey. And that's all we have for today. Do you have anything else, Brady?
That's it for me.
Crystal?
That's it.
And we're here to remind you, Goonies.
Never say die.
Yeah, that's what the good editing will do.
Oh,
Make
yeah.
that sound wonderful.
Goonies Minute is a fan-supported podcast. If you like the show, then leave us a review on iTunes. You can find us at GooniesMinute.com, Facebook.com/GooniesMinute, Twitter.com/GooniesMinute, and at Instagram @GooniesMinute. You can contact us at GooniesMinute@gmail.com. You've been listening to a Pele Media podcast. For premium content and exclusive podcasts, visit us at patreon.com/Pele Media. Check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/Pele Media and follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/Pele Media.